Let me ask you, what is your stance personally on the UFO phenomenon that we see globally and what we've seen through the decades? What's your feeling on it?
I definitely believe it exists. I don't quite know what it is, though. Is it
Right.
is it visitors from another planet? Is it some kind of interdimensional
Yes.
thing?
Yeah.
Because it's very interesting how a UFO will appear in the atmosphere, in the sky, or in orbit,
Yep.
and all of a sudden disappear.
Gone.
And they can't seem to track it from point A to point B.
Yeah,
You
it
would think
is-
that they would be able to track it from wherever it is in the sky to somewhere further in the universe, but they just seem to disappear out of thin air.
Yeah.
And is that some sort of stealth technology like in First Signal,
Yeah.
or is this some kind of interdimensional? Is this a spiritual thing?
Yeah.
So
We really don't know.
I mean, enough people, completely normal people from all walks of life, all over the world, have encountered these things, and but who and what they are and what they want is not clear. Although it does seem that they are making their presence known, especially now.
It seems to be. There seems to be more interesting phenomenon that is presenting itself. Well, and the military just released some imagery that we actually have in First Signal that that can't be explained.
They seem to be encountering our aircraft more and almost showing off a little bit more, showboating a little bit more.
Yes.
And there does seem like they're exposing themselves more, and you almost wonder, is there going to be a revelation soon?
Yes.
From their
Something.
side or from our side?
Yep. Someone's going to make the first move. And who knows? Someone probably already did.
And that's what's great about this film, is that it puts you in that right kind of tension that we're in right now,
Yeah.
where it does seem like we're on the cusp of knowing
Something.
either way. So
Yeah, it definitely, I wanted audience to leave with, geez, what would I do if I really was confronted with this? We saw that with Major Sampson's character when she was struggling, and I mean, and the way she handled it from the military component, and then when she said to you, she can't just turn her back on your words alone, and then you proved it with the arrival of your Arctran, but even then there was still. You did say you were from Earth. Didn't say where your people were from, but you were from Earth, and that's a whole story for the sequel. Is there anything you would like to ask me? Is there any questions that ever came up with this project that you wanted to ask me, or whatever? You're welcome to.
I guess I don't really have a question, just more of an observation. The one thing I liked from working on the film was it was very disciplined, very organized.
Oh, thank you.
Things had a very fast pace to them. The world I'm used to, whether it's an independent film or a larger film, is anytime the camera moves and a new shot needs to be set up, that usually becomes a cigarette break and a coffee break.
It takes forever, doesn't it?
Which
Yeah.
goes from 10 minutes to 20 minutes and sometimes hours
Oh,
long.
yeah.
And there's never any sense of we're going to finish by a certain time.
No,
It's just like we'll finish when we finish, and that may mean going late into the night.
Totally.
And so you kind of are resigned to just accepting, like, I have no idea when I'll be done.
Home at
And on
midnight.
this film, though, it was such a tight ship that
Thank you.
you knew roughly, like, this is going to be a 9 to 3. It almost felt like a normal day job in a way. Like, I punch in at 9, I'll probably punch out at
Imagine if all our acting and production jobs were
at 3.
like that. Life's so much. Well, when we first got on set, I think it was day one, we were shooting the hallway scenes, if we did that right, I remember. And I was talking to someone from the office, and I'll never forget they said to me, because I just assumed it was going to be a 10, 12-hour day, like everything is in this industry. They said, Mark, we close at 5, so you're going to have to start maybe wrapping up at 4. And I remember walking in, first telling Dan, and then telling all you, well, we have to be done at 4. Of course, I wasn't presenting the panicked look on my face, but I'm like, holy mother of God, I've never shot a 9 to 5 schedule. And it's not because as filmmakers and actors we're all incompetent. It's just that I think it's because we're so used to that type of a situation. We've all been there. They move a camera, there's a cigarette break, they cancel till the next day. And I've always wondered why. I mean, we have a camera there, we have a camera here. You pick the camera up, you move it, you move a few lights, and you're done. I've never understood the concept of why it takes forever. And we obviously share that same frustration. So when I was putting together the shot list, you start with your wides, your mids, your close-ups and all that. But I mean, you figure, all right, we're going to do 3 takes for each thing, accounting an extra minute or 2 here for time. As long as we had ours set up right behind the camera, and as long as the actors had their lines in front of the camera, there's not a lot of reason why we should be having these endless delays. And of course, you had about a 3-hour drive, I think, to set too. So I knew pretty much where you were coming in from. And Dan and I each had, mine was an hour and a half. I think Dan's was about an hour and a half as well. And so, and Paul's was about 3 hours as well too. So whenever I make a film, I want to make sure I respect everybody's time, because you don't want to come back to set the next day and be exhausted, because we've all been down that road too. And but no, you guys were it just worked out well. But thank you for that. Thank you. I've must come from my old magazine publishing days, where if I missed a deadline, it cost me a lot of money, so I didn't want to do that anymore.
But it was a relief, when you work in a very professional setting like that, and it gives you hope too that if things run so smoothly now on the post-production end and the release end, they'll be handled just as professionally.
Yep.
Because in independent film, there's so many times where you work hard and commit, and then on the back end,
right off the rails.
Either it doesn't get put into festivals or it never gets released.
Never gets released.
And I never had that sense.
Sits on a shelf.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's why I haven't done an independent film for over 10 years myself as an actor, because the last one I did, it was forever in post-production, and it was never sound mixed, and they edited it down by 20 minutes. And the problem was it was already a tight script to begin with. And so when you take chunks out of the dialogue and the characters, I understand when it's being done for television, compressed for time. That I understand, because that's a television buy, and they're going to do that anyways, and it makes no difference what any of us as filmmakers think. But when we signed with our distributor, I narrowed it down to about 6. 3 of them said they would edit the film as they saw fit. Oh no, it was right there in the contracts. I was like, well, I can't have that. Again, I get if a television network is going to buy it, insert commercials and this and that, they're going to have to cut it to fit into a 2-hour slot. I absolutely understand that. You saw that a lot with films from the 70s, which I love. We know what sections are cut out. I couldn't in good conscience sign a distribution deal knowing that on day 1, so-and-so was going to cut out, say, one of your great monologues, especially the one at the end, which pulled the whole thing together. Yeah, I just know some of the disappointments I've had as an actor. And so if I'm going to commit my time and my money to do the whole pre-production and production, I mean, post-production, as you know, because you're also a filmmaker, I mean, that takes a lot of concentration of time, a lot of back and forth on editing. I mean, I'm sure Dan woke up in the morning going, oh, another email from Mark. And it was just what it was. And then the festival circuit, which is a crapshoot to begin with. You submit and you hope. And I was happy with the way the film did. And then getting the right distributor. It's interesting, one of the other actors, Paul Noonan, asked what was the biggest challenge in the whole project. And the biggest challenge was distribution, in terms of making sure we were going to get a good deal.
Right.
Because it's a 3-year contract. It's a very straightforward contract. There's no weird surprises in it. All the references that I sent out on this one came back very positive. Not just, it's fine. No, it came back very positive. Others, you'd send the emails out. The filmmakers sometimes would call me and say, don't sign this deal. Because you know how it can be. I mean, you've heard, I'm sure, from filmmakers yourself. They've never gotten paid. Their film doesn't fully get released. I had one filmmaker tell me that he got a deal with Showtime. And on the surface, it sounds great. Then he told me what he get paid. But Showtime then locked up the film from any other digital distribution rights for 3 years. He goes, I can't get this thing on Amazon. I can't even hope, because he actually had some named extras. I can't even hope for a Netflix. Never mind a Tubi or IMDb TV or something. So, yeah, it's a real needle and thread kind of thing that needs to be carefully honed.
I guess the last thing I would say is to go back to challenges for the actors was, because the first half of the film largely takes place in one room, the acting has to be very good.
Yes.
And it has to be it's not just that you have to be truthful and authentic, but you have to just create an energy that will make the audience hang in there with you.
Yep.
Because the second half of the film, the special effects start to come in more.
Exactly.
There's some exciting editing, cutting back and forth between 3 different locations.
Right.
So the pressure on the actors lifts a little bit because there's more eye candy for the audience to look at.
Exactly.
So the challenge with the first half is trying to create an ensemble performance in a way that's interesting and engaging enough where the audience will kind of hang in there.
Yeah.
And if they do hang in there, which they will,
Yeah.
the second half in particular is really great. And I think the last 20 minutes,
Oh yeah.
being a sci-fi fan, the last 20 minutes of this film is as good as any science fiction movie.
Oh, thank you. Thank
And
you,
the
yeah.
ending is just,
Yeah.
wonderful and sweet. And
Yeah, I think it has a
there
nice.
has the right amount of mystery to at the end.
Just at the end. Particularly, I loved how you remember we were at the premiere, and I should have said it in my little speech beforehand that there's a post-credit scene. Because the lights started going, people starting to rise. I almost said, no, there's a post-credit scene, don't leave. But yeah, no, the last 20 minutes has a nice flow to it. I like how there's very little dialogue, and it's just imagery. And the way you come and go is just, that's Adam Starr who created all that and all this, it's, but, and thank you for being part of this. You breathed life into a character that I wrote over 10 years ago. You made it come to life. You made it real. You made it just mysterious enough, but still approachable. And I just think you presented it in a way that I think audiences are going to want to know, where did you go, and what did you do after you get back on the ship? And thank you again, Conor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.